In this video, traders, we're going to look at framing bias. Stay tuned. Hey guys, a warm welcome to you. Alright, so what is framing bias? How does it affect our trading or investing decisions, and how can we combat it? So, framing bias is this. It's making an opinion based on how the facts are presented as opposed to objectively. So it's the way that things are kind of wrapped up and shown to us so that we see it in the light that people are trying to show it to us rather than actually stating the facts. Example could be in a corporate environment, could be this. Hey, we made £10 million this year versus £15 million expected. Right? That's a pretty negative twist on it. It's like, well, you expected to make 15 million, you made 10, that's not so great. Whereas if you framed it like this and said, well, we made £10 million this year versus £5 million last year, all of a sudden that looks positive. Depending on how you're framing it, could be depending on how people perceive it. So if you're a bull and you want people to kind of get on board your bull case, you're long, you would say, hey, you know what, they made 5 million last year, they doubled their revenue, aren't they doing well? If you're a bear, you're going to say, well, these guys, you know, did nowhere near as well as expected. You know, they're 5 million short of their target. You know, they're doing awfully. Same outcome, same objective fact, but just framed in a different way. So another thing could be, and we see this a lot of times, guys, in marketing, like things are framed based on how much you could save. Things are framed based on, you know, different kind of pricing structures as well. There's all this kind of stuff out there. And they've done studies on this before. They've said, okay, you know, if you subscribe two kind of subscriptions, I can't remember what it was for, registrations. If you registered late for this, you would have a late fee applied. So let's say it's £100 and you would have a £25 late fee applied if you applied late. Okay, that meant that majority of people got in early. However, if you wrapped it up as it's £125 but you get an early bird discount, then a lot more people didn't subscribe to or didn't register early. Now, it's something that's compulsory to register for anyway. It's not kind of something that's an optional purchase, but it kind of shows you that if it's framed in a way that people accept it, then they're not going to be so bothered about it. Another study was done, I think, in Israel kindergarten, where they kind of said, okay, if you're late to pick up your child, then there'll be a fine employed, and people were happy to be late to pick up their child because they thought just pay the fine, doesn't matter. Whereas if it was like a social problem with it and it was framed as like, well, you know, we don't need to be late to pick up the child because it means that someone's got to stay behind, it means they can't go home, it means they can't do this, can't do that. Well, that letter went out. A lot more people then came and picked up their child and made sure they were on time rather than being late and thinking they could pay the fine. So again, it's how we wrap these things up and present it in all walks of life. Specifically, we're talking about investments and got to be careful of investments as to how we perceive it. So how do we combat this? Well, you probably know as well as I do, guys, when you're looking at headlines and you're looking at kind of left-leaning bias papers, right-leaning bias papers, they report on exactly the same story, but they twist it and they say, well, this government's done this, aren't they great? This government's done this, aren't they bad? It's how they compare it. All the jobs are now greater than they were before, and then they're like, okay, now we've still got so many people unemployed, and it's just still looking at the facts. So it's up to you to objectively look at what's being presented and then make an assessment based on that. So it's objectively look at the facts, being careful of how the facts are framed, being careful of emotive language as well. I mean, we probably all know about that. We see on headlines as well, real emotive language, big things in there to make us look and make us read. We all know about clickbait. But talking from an investment perspective, if we're reading through articles, if we're reading stuff, we're assessing and we're analysing things, it pays to be just looking at pure facts. So maybe we use those articles to get facts, then we go away and we do our own research. You know, stuff could be, you know, I see this all the time with kind of trading, for trading drug companies that have come out and said, oh, they've done really well on the drug trials. It says, yes, well, this is, you know, kind of much better than the previous drug. It's going to save, you know, 5,000 lives or something. And then you look and you dig and someone else says, well, actually they tested 50,000 people and 40,000 people got worse or developed some nasty disease or died or something, as an extreme example. But you get the point. How you frame it is so important. So being careful of that, guys, watching how it's framed, being aware of the framing bias that we all have as humans, be aware of other people framing stuff to kind of match their viewpoint, and we will do it ourselves, right? If we're telling a story or saying something, we are probably going to say this is bullish because this, and this. If we're long, we're not going to give the bear argument. So we're going to frame stuff in the best possible light. So it's human nature to do that way and to be careful when we're receiving it. So if we watch out for that, then we can be more objective with our trading and investment decisions. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.